I was an engineer for 32 years. In 1966, I was put on a project. I had been with IBM and now I was with General Electric. The project was to develop a little microcircuit that would connect the nerve ends on a broken spine back together. We were not successful with the young lady with the severed spine. And as time went along, it looked like they were going to close our project down. Much of our research data had been publicized, and some men came to us that we were to find out were from the government. They were from the CIA and the FBI. And they asked us to develop a little microchip for identification. This was to be used not in human beings, not in animals, but to be put in drug shipments to catch drug dealers. I was not alone there. There were 100 people involved in the project. We began to work on the design of a microchip. When it was completed, was 0.75 millimeters in diameter, 7 millimeters long. It was the size of 1/4 of a grain of rice. I want to tell you at this point that I was not a Christian, and I did not want anything to do with Christians. But I had married a young lady who was a Christian. They said they wanted this to have a power source and be able to emit a signal. And they told us they wanted us to use lithium as a battery source. Lithium's used in watch batteries, it's used in heart pacemaker batteries, it's used in a lot of places. I designed into this microchip a little charging circuit that would charge that battery. This sounds like a lot of technical things coming together, but if you'll bear with me 1 minute, you'll see what God has laid out about this microchip. When we discovered that we needed to be able to charge that battery, I needed a temperature change, a change in temperature to cause current to flow through that little charging circuit that would charge the battery. So we began to investigate and find out where in the body does the temperature change the most rapidly. It was determined that there were 2 places in the body that were ideal for the microchip. One was just below the hairline on the forehead. The other place was the hand, the right hand preferred, because most people are right-handed. This didn't bother me, and it didn't bother anybody else on the team. The hand seemed a good place. Nobody wanted it here. And so the design work, everything was completed, the microchip was done. You're seeing it now on some of the Discovery Channel presentations. There are people who have received it already. It is real. It's not something that's coming way down the road. Now, God has got a sense of humor. My daughter came to me one day. My wife was in the hospital, and she said, "Can I be baptized?" I told her, I guess you can. You need to wear a coat. I think you're going to get wet or something. So I decided that maybe I would go. I didn't want to miss the football game, but I could hurry and get back. I saw those people coming out of the water, and they were grinning. And I knew that they had something I didn't have. I didn't know what it was, but it was something about them that was different. I came back to my house. I went into my library. I got down on my knees at the edge of my desk. And then I said, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know how to pray. I didn't want to ask my daughter for her Bible, so I looked around in the library, and I found a little Gideon Bible that I had received in 1946. I had not read that Bible, but I believe that God had His hand on me to give me that Bible in 1946 so that I could have it on that day. When I opened the page, it seemed like God was saying, "The answers are in here, my son." I also found a prayer in that Bible. And I got down on my knees again, and I began to pray that prayer. Tears began to run out of my eyes. There is no dignity when this happens. When I got through, I knew I had to go tell somebody. I asked my mother to watch the children, and I got in the car and drove 25 miles to where my wife was at. And I told my wife what had happened to me. She had rededicated her life. About 2 weeks later, we got baptized in front of our children. And I went into the water that was lukewarm, and I came out a lukewarm Christian. This may come as a surprise, but there are many people who are walking in those shoes today. They gave me a Bible. Yep. They told me not to read the book of Revelation. They said the book of Revelation is too hard to understand. So I waited, and I didn't read the book of Revelation. Then one day I came to Revelation 13, verse 16. And he caused us all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. I didn't like what I saw. I went back and looked up the word mark. I went to the Strong's Concordance, and I found that John had used 3 words for the word mark. Charagma, charicator, and charax. That was from the Greek. I looked at those words. They talked about a scratch or an etching. They talked about a lot of things. And I said, God, this isn't it. We didn't do it. He said, go to the word for 666. The word is chixestigma. In the Greek, it says to go to 4742 as a cross. The word in 4742 is the word stigma. The last half of the word chixestigma. And when I looked at what it says stizo, i.e. to stick, to prick, a mark incised or punched into for recognition of ownership. I thought about the little injection tool. The end of it is called an incisor. I began to weep and I began to cry, and I said, oh God, what have we done? I couldn't believe that this lined up with what we had developed. I ran for many years. I was in the Orient for 3 years. I carried Bibles into China. I said, God, look what I'm doing for you. He said, I called you to obedience. In June of 1990, continuing to run from God, God caught me in a hospital in Spokane, Washington. I was terminal with cancer and told that I would not live through the surgery. When I got out of intensive care and began to share what God had given me, the microchip implant is real. Credit cards are failing. They can be counterfeited, but you cannot lose your hand. Very quickly, they're going to move to this being in the hand. I tell you, as a Christian, you cannot take this. Revelation 14, verse 9. The third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast in his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Today there have been over 15,000 babies that have been given the positive identification, the microchip. Many companies are using the microchip as identification in their top-level employees. Jesus was a man of sorrow, was not a man of despair. As the ravens fed Elijah, God will take care of his people. But he said, you will not know the day or the hour, but you will know the signs of the times. Jesus Christ will not deceive you. In verse 5 he says, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. Today in India there is a man who calls himself the Christ, and 15 million souls follow that man. Jesus loved you so much he told you what was going to happen. He said there will be famines in the land. It may interest you to know that the United States does not have any grain reserves today. We have always had much grain in storage. We see in God's Word, He's telling us, He's not hiding anything. We also have the signs of the church that has accepted every kind of teaching, the church that has moved away from God's word and moved to man's way, the church that worships with its soul, not with spirit and truth. And so the church has gone the way of the world.